RAM. It's one of the most important things in a computer, but some of you may be wondering, how exactly do you install it into your own computer so that you can have 16, 8, or however many gigabytes of RAM you want in your computer build? Well, if you were wondering that, then you've come to the right place, because today we're going to talk about how to install RAM and how to decide which RAM is the best for you. And let's talk about that now. If you already have your RAM with you and ready to use, you can skip through this part. But for now, we are going to talk about how to choose what RAM is the right for you. So, you may see all these different types of RAM on the internet when you're searching, and you don't know which type you need. Well, the first thing you need to take into account is the amount of RAM you want. Say for instance 8 gigabytes, 16 gigabytes, 4 gigabytes. You need to decide how much you want and how much you want to spend. So the first thing you need to do is decide how much you want to spend. Oftentimes 8 gigabytes is the least amount you can get if you want to have smooth performance in games. So you can go 8 gigabytes or higher if you want to get a decent performance in games. If you're really on a budget, you can go 4 gigabytes, but you won't be able to run most games. If you do not have 8 gigabytes of RAM or more, you could be bottlenecking your system, so it's a good idea to have at least 8 gigabytes of RAM if you want to have a smooth gaming performance. The second thing you need to take into account is your RAM's frequency. That is the speed at which it can transfer files to and from it. Now, if you want to get good gaming performance, I would suggest going around the 2000 to 4000 megahertz range, but if you want to go on a budget, you can go below that. Either way, I haven't seen much difference in game performance, but if you really want to save money, then you can go below 2000 megahertz. Here's the first mistake I made when buying RAM for my first time. Now, this may seem obvious to some, but to me, as when I built that computer, I was a new computer builder, so you wouldn't want to make the same mistake as I did. It might be an uncommon mistake, but it's still a mistake you can make. The mistake I made was when I ordered RAM off of the internet, I accidentally got RAM that was labeled as ECC RAM, which stands for error correction something. I'll edit that in. But anyway, that means that it's more used for server computers and will not work with computers that have motherboards that are not made to support ECC RAM. So when you buy RAM, make sure that you have the right type of RAM, because you don't want ECC RAM on a non-ECC motherboard. Also, one obvious thing, make sure your computer is unplugged and your power supply is turned off. You don't want to shock yourself. Now it's time to show you, to be honest, the simplest part of getting your RAM. Now, whenever you get your RAM, you need to make sure that you have the right amount to fit these, because these are your RAM slots. You don't want to get more RAM than you actually have slots for. So, for instance, my computer has 4 RAM slots, so I could get up to 4 sticks of RAM, but I have 2 sticks of 8 gigabytes. So, I'm going to show you how to install them into your computer. So when you install the RAM, I'm using DDR4 RAM, which is the most common RAM at this day, but you see this notch right there, it needs to align with the notch in the RAM slot. So stick your RAM in nice and easy. Now push it down nice and slow. Do one side, then do the other. And it will probably automatically click, but even if it doesn't, you can just close the switch yourself. Now do the same thing with your next stick of RAM. Now the RAM is secure. After this, you can place in your next 2 RAMs if you have them, but I do not have them. So after that, you have to go on to the next step, which is to put them at the right frequency in the BIOS. For the next step, you're going to have to fix the frequency of your RAM in your BIOS, because sometimes your RAM will be set to a lower frequency than it's able to do, which will bottleneck your computer and make your RAM not run at the speed that it's able to. So, you need to turn on your computer, and if there are any errors, then you must have done something wrong, and you need to fix whatever you did wrong. Wait for your monitor to turn on, and wait for it to get to the BIOS. This should take some time, perhaps. But once you see the BIOS, you have to get straight into the boot menu by pressing whatever button it is. Now I have an ASRock motherboard, so it may be different for you, but for this one I had to press either delete or F2. So now you have to navigate to advanced mode and go to OC Tweaker, and in DRAM configuration you have to figure out where it shows your RAM's frequency, and right here it shows the frequency right there. So then you see mine says DDR4 and it shows the frequency. My RAM is set to 320 megahertz, which is its speed. So click on the one that is your right speed, and after that go to exit, click on save changes and exit. Yes. And there you go. Now your RAM is set to the right frequency, and you should be able to use your computer the way that you're supposed to. So, I hope that you guys enjoyed this simple tutorial, and I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.